The sound was like a gunshot, metal against metal, airbags bursting, tires ripping apart on hidden spikes. Karen's shiny SUV crumpled right there at my ranch gate, while the neighbors stood on the road recording every second. That was the moment the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA lost her crown. But to understand how we got to that point, you have to hear everything that came before it. I bought this ranch for peace. After 30 years swinging hammers, coughing up dust on construction sites, and living under HOA rules that dictated the color of my damn mailbox, I wanted quiet. Just wide skies, the sound of horses at dawn, and a wooden gate. I built myself heavy cedar iron hinges swinging closed with a satisfying thud every night. That gate was my line in the sand. My land, my rules, no clipboards, no fines, no board meetings. At least that's what I thought. The first time I saw her, I should have known trouble was coming. Perfect blonde bob, oversized sunglasses, brand new white SUV with a bumper sticker that screamed, "Pine Hollow HOA Proud." She slowed down, smiled without meaning it, and then without hesitation drove straight through my closed gate. The hinges screamed, cedar scraped across gravel, and she vanished into my pasture like she owned it. I stood there dumbfounded, telling myself maybe she was lost. But when it happened again and again, it was clear Karen wasn't lost. She was daring me. I tried stopping her, ran out onto the porch one morning shouting, "That's private property." She leaned out the window laughing and yelled, "Community easement," before tearing across my land. Community easement, I knew my deed backward and forward. There was no easement, no right of way, no community claim. But she said it with the confidence of someone reading from Scripture, like the HOA itself had handed down commandments and she was just enforcing them. Soon the letters started. Official HOA letterhead stuffed into my mailbox, violation notices, fines, orders to remove my gate because it did not conform to community aesthetics. I wasn't even part of their HOA. But that didn't matter to Karen. To her, my land wasn't mine, it was just another square on her kingdom's chessboard. I rebuilt that gate over and over, reinforced the hinges, dug the posts deeper, cursed under my breath with every swing of the hammer. Each splinter felt like an insult, like she was spitting in my face. And it wasn't just her anymore. I caught other HOA board members following her lead, minivans and sedans cruising across my pasture like it was some toll-free highway. They waved at each other, waved at me like I was just the help. One evening I marched into the HOA office to face her. She sat at a polished desk stacked with binders, looking at me like I was dirt on her marble floor. "You can't keep that gate," she said sweetly. "It violates our road easement." I shot back, "I'm not in your HOA. This is my land." She leaned back, tapping her nails. Boundaries are flexible when community welfare is at stake. I'll never forget the way she said it, like a queen telling a peasant his home now belonged to the crown. That night I felt the first crack in my resolve. Standing over the broken planks of my gate, I thought maybe the old-timers were right. Best to let her be, they had told me at the feed store. Maybe I was the fool here, fighting a war I couldn't win. Maybe I should just tear down the gate, save myself the headache. The thought made my stomach turn. I came here for freedom, for peace, and now I was considering surrendering it to a woman who thought rules didn't apply to her. For the first time, I wondered if I'd made a mistake buying this place. But the more I thought about giving up, the angrier I got. I wasn't built to quit. 30 years of construction had taught me one thing. When something collapses, you don't throw it away, you rebuild it stronger. That night, a dangerous idea took root. If wood and hinges couldn't hold, maybe steel and concrete could. Maybe I didn't need just a gate. Maybe I needed a trap. I got to work. Industrial steel beams salvaged from an old demolition job, 6-foot posts sunk into rebar-reinforced concrete crossbars welded tight. From the outside, it would look like the same rustic cedar gate Karen had smashed a dozen times. But behind that disguise, it was a fortress. And just beyond the gate, I dug shallow trenches, lined them with steel teeth hidden under gravel. Anyone arrogant enough to ram through would find their tires shredded before they made it 10 feet. Karen must have sensed something. She parked at the property line one day, SUV idling, phone pointed at me as I welded. "You really think you can stop progress?" she sneered. I didn't even look up. "No," I said, sparks flying. "But I can stop you." She laughed that brittle laugh the kind people use when they're scared but won't admit it. By the time the gate was finished, it looked humble, just wood and hinges. But I knew better. It was steel wrapped in cedar concrete sunk deep and a line of spikes waiting like jaws in the dirt. And I sat back on my porch, dogs at my feet, waiting. Because if there was one thing I knew about Karen, it was that patience wasn't her virtue. She couldn't resist proving herself. Sure enough, a bright Saturday afternoon I heard it. The low growl of her engine louder, closer. Dust rising on the horizon, her SUV charging like a bull, 2 HOA board members trailing behind her. She didn't slow down. She sped up, sunglasses, flashing, lips curled in that smug grin I'd come to hate. Then it happened. The bumper hit. Instead of splintering wood, it slammed into steel. The sound cracked through the air like a rifle shot. Her SUV jolted, airbags detonated, white smoke filling the cabin. Momentum dragged her forward just far enough for the rear tires to roll over my disguised trench, pop, 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 rubber shredding to ribbons. Behind her, the convoy skidded to a panicked stop, one minivan swerving into a ditch, another sedan fishtailing to avoid collision. I stayed seated on the porch, calm as Sunday morning. My dogs barked, neighbors gathered at the road phones out recording the Queen's downfall. Karen stumbled out of her car, coughing in the airbag dust, pointing at me like I'd committed murder. "What have you done? This is illegal," she shrieked. I stood, walked toward the wreck, and said evenly, "What I've done is stop you from trespassing, and I've got it all on camera." Her face drained of color when I pointed at the discreet security cams mounted on the posts. For weeks she'd bullied, fined, and threatened me. Now every second of her arrogance was caught in high definition. The sheriff showed up minutes later, listened to her screams, then turned to me. I handed him the footage. His tone shifted. "Ma'am, if this is what it looks like, you're the one in trouble." The crowd erupted in laughter. Karen went red, sputtering, but there was no saving her. Of course she didn't stop there. The next week I was slapped with a lawsuit, reckless endangerment, property damage, obstruction of community easement. They even wanted me to pay for her busted SUV. I nearly spit out my coffee laughing. My attorney Martha tore it apart in court. She played the footage, every smug smirk, every crash, every fake fine. And when Karen took the stand, she lost it. "I am the president." "He can't defy me," she screamed. The judge slammed his gavel. "This is a court of law, not your board meeting. Sit down." The ruling came swift. HOA's claims dismissed. Damages awarded to me. Karen fined personally for harassment and reckless driving. The video went public, viral within days. Memes plastered across the internet, Karen versus the gate of justice. Neighbors who had been silent for years started speaking up. Board members resigned one after another. And Karen, she was left standing alone, humiliated, powerless, her kingdom reduced to a punchline. That's where my story ends. I didn't need a parade or a victory party. Watching Karen stumble out of that courtroom stripped of her crown was enough. My gate still stands stronger than ever, not just a barrier of steel and cedar, but a reminder. And here's the truth. I learned boundaries only matter if you're willing to defend them.